Hi, and welcome back to the House of the Stag YouTube channel. We're going to do something different today. Someone sent me an old interview of George R.R. Martin on Instagram. It's from way back in 2011, and I realized that some things are still very relevant today, and I would love to go over a few details. I've put the link of this article down in the description if you want to check it out. I'm not going to go over the entire interview, only the bits that I think are interesting. Let's get into it. So, George R. R. Martin was interviewed by James Hibbert from Entertainment Weekly. You may know Hibbert from his Fire Cannot Kill a Dragon book that came out in 2020. The first question is quite simple. Hibbert asked Martin if he enjoys writing, to which Martin replied, "I do, yeah. To the extent that anything is fun to write. I'm one of those writers who say I've enjoyed having written. There are days I really enjoy writing and there are days I hate it. I can see it in my head and the words won't come out. I try to put it on the page and it feels stiff and wooden and it's stupid. Writing is hard work." Okay, nothing too surprising there. Martin talked about writer's block a couple of times on his Not a Blog, and we all have good days and bad days. It's been 10 years, so this just makes sense. The follow-up question to this is where it gets interesting, however. Hibbert asked if it's true that Martin is throwing away pages and rewriting them, to which Martin replied, "I do, maybe more than I should, especially with these books, especially as we go deeper. I don't know if it's because I'm getting older or the series is getting more complicated. I think I've been influenced by my own good reviews. I've had so many people say this is the greatest fantasy since Tolkien, or even greater. It's awoken in me a desire not to blow it." This just demonstrates the big pressure that man has on his shoulders. Again, this was in 2011 and Thrones was not even close to being a hit yet. Season 1 just came out and they prepared shooting for Season 2. I imagine this must have gotten way worse over the years, and the criticism of the final season could have had an even bigger impact than I thought. He even mentions reviews here. Good ones that compare his work to Tolkien. If those affect him, then it could work the other way around too. The criticism of Season 8 could have gotten to him, even if he was not involved in the writing for the show past Season 4. It just adds even more pressure. It's his magnum opus, his life work, so he would definitely want to make sure it ends in a satisfying way. Add that to him openly admitting to rewriting stuff, I think it's fair to assume that he might re-evaluate some plot points. Anyway, Martin is asked if he ever regretted anything in the series, to which he replied, "The biggest thing I'm wrestling with is the chronology. When I set out with the young characters, it was my intention that the kids grow up during the series, and I thought I'd have a chapter, and the next chapter would be a month later, then the next would be 2 months after that, and by the end of the book a year will have passed. But it doesn't make sense that a character will take 2 months to respond to something that happens, so you wind up writing the whole book and very little time has passed. After the 3rd book, I thought I would jump forward 5 years, then the kids would be older. That was part of the delay. I tried to write it with a gap, but it just didn't work, so I wound up scrapping all that." George's answer here gives us some insight about how his brain works and how he develops his ideas. This might be my favorite answer from the entire interview. It's definitely too late for a time jump now, but I'm glad that there wasn't one in the first place. The timelines could definitely be an issue when it comes to Winds of Winter. How long will it take until Daenerys returns after gaining a Khalasar? How long will it take till she meets all the people that entered her storyline and she's finally crossing the Narrow Sea? If I were George R. R. Martin, that storyline alone would give me nightmares, to be honest. It's a gigantic task and I really hope I get to see the result one day. Next up, George was asked about his ending. He said this: "I know the ending in broad strokes. I don't know every little twist and turn that will get me there, and I don't know the ending of every secondary character. But the ending and the main characters, yeah." And David Benioff and Dan Weiss know some of that too, which the fans are very worried about in case I get hit by a truck. That pretty much goes in line with what I said earlier. I think he's very careful when it comes to how he gets to the end. We have to remember that he has around 20 individual POV characters at this point, so he definitely has to start killing people without falling into the trap of rushing the story. George's books are big, maximum really, but are they really big enough to end the story within these next 2 books? When it comes to D&D knowing the ending, yeah, I think the ending we got, at least for the major characters like Jon, Dany, Bran, and Sansa, is pretty much what George told them. Obviously, crap like Bronn sitting in a small council will be different and how people end up in these situations overall as well. But yeah, I do believe Bran will be king. I might make a separate video on what I believe will stay the same and what could be different. Let me know if you would like to see that down in the comment section below. The next question is probably the spiciest amongst all of them. Hibbert asked George if he feels like he owes the fans anything and if there's a responsibility to them too, which Martin replied, I think owe is the wrong word. I try to give them a good story and I like my fans. The vast majority are great. I probably have more interaction with fans than any author I know. By and large, I'm very nice to my fans, but I don't owe it to them to be nice. And if I wanted to withdraw, that would be my right. I certainly believe it's my right to take off Sundays and watch NFL football, and go to conventions and work on other projects. The more hardcore trolls, that's what they object to. You met Ty, he thinks it's generational. The people who are angry are younger people from what he calls the entitlement generation. They want instant gratification, something that they're used to from the internet. I'm from the baby boomer generation and we had to wait for shit, man. If I heard about a book, it might never have come to the spinner rack at the local drugstore. If I wanted to see a movie, we'd have to hope they'd show it on television at some point. It's Ty's theory, not mine, but maybe it's true. Okay, we gotta remember that this is from 2011. It's been over 10.5 years now, and I think it's more than understandable that people have gotten a bit impatient. It's a story with an incredibly big community. People from all around the world connect every day because of it. Hell, if you would have told me 10 years ago that I would create a YouTube channel with someone from a whole different continent, I would have laughed at you. Long story short, people are very passionate about it, and at the end of the day, that's what made both the books and the show so successful. Are we as a fan base entitled to Winds of Winter? Of course not, but I understand the frustration at this point. We've all invested quite some time into this fictional world, and at the end of the day, we would all just love to see the story continue. The other thing are the trolls though, he's mentioning them here, and yeah, he definitely gets a lot of those. George's social media team could upload a picture of himself and his wife Paris celebrating a birthday or whatever, and the top comment will be, when is the book coming out? And that's just harmless in comparison to some other comments you'll find underneath these posts. Those people are idiots, and that's it. George is 73. Some people just don't seem to realize that, but let's continue. Hibbert asked George if he has now gotten to a point where he no longer needs to have characters in separate books, to which Martin replied, that is certainly my hope, yes. 3 years from now, when I'm sitting on 1,800 pages of manuscript with no end in sight, who the hell knows? Well, again, we're talking about around 20 individual POV characters. I'm expecting to see a lot of POV characters like Victarion Greyjoy, Areo Hota, Barristan Selmy, or John Connington to die soon. But even then it's a possibility that Winds of Winter gets split up like A Dance with Dragons once was. Martin revealed that his publishers have asked him to do that several times now. We'll see. Let's end the video with a few little questions about the story itself. Most of you will probably know about this next exchange. I did too, but I didn't know it was from this interview. So for the chance that some of you don't know it, here it is. We're going to talk about Jon Snow's Winds of Winter storyline soon enough on this channel, but yeah, he's definitely not done in this story. It remains to be seen how he comes back, if he even has to. My money would be on Jon temporarily warging into Ghost. A POV chapter of Jon being trapped in Ghost's body would be amazing, but who knows? Listen closely to this next one. As we all know, Ramsay's pink letter claims that Stannis is dead. Hibbert asked George if that is true, to which he replied, my readers should know better than to take anything as gospel unless they see it for themselves, and even then I do sometimes use unreliable narrator. No, they should not take that as the truth. What about Mance Rayder? Did you think he was really dead? Yeah, I don't believe a word from that letter, and George openly talking about it, even though he's quite renowned for being taciturn about his story, is very telling. We talked about this in great detail already. Go check out our Stannis podcast episode where we break it all down, or watch the theory discussion we had with former Game of Thrones extra Andy McClay. Loads of Stannis on this channel. Okay, and that's it for the interview. Finally, some Ice and Fire again. If you've been wondering about the lack of a Song of Ice and Fire content, Don't worry, I'm just waiting for the trailer for House of the Dragon. I have plans for 10 plus videos on that. Once that trailer drops, we'll of course have a trailer breakdown, a trailer discussion, and I'm going to do some character analysis on all major characters of this new show. Also, we're going to have Eric Nolan on our podcast very soon. He'll be the third Game of Thrones guest and it's gonna be an absolute blast. Thank you so much for watching. Feel free to join the discussion down below. Make sure to subscribe and see you later.